Good morning, my friend. Welcome to Wisdom and Wealth. My name is Jason, and every week we gather here for a quiet conversation about money, faith, and the wisdom we need to navigate this season of life. If you're over 50, you've probably discovered that money isn't just about numbers anymore. It's about retirement. It's about helping your children while protecting your future. It's about caring for aging parents. It's about wondering if you've saved enough. It's about paying off debt. It's about leaving something meaningful behind. Most of all, it's about finding peace. That's what this channel's all about. Not getting rich, not chasing the latest financial trend, not promising overnight success, just timeless biblical wisdom, practical financial principles, and the quiet confidence that comes from making one wise decision at a time. So pour yourself a cup of coffee, take a deep breath, and let's spend the next few minutes together. Because no matter where you are financially, I truly believe it's not too late. Let's begin. The clock beside my bed glowed softly in the darkness. 2:17. I rolled over, closed my eyes, and waited. Nothing. Sleep had already packed its bags and left. The room was still except for the slow turning of the ceiling fan. Moonlight slipped through the edge of the blinds, laying pale stripes across the floor. Beside me, my wife slept peacefully. The kind of deep sleep that comes when your mind had finally decided to rest. I smiled, not because I wasn't worried, because I was glad one of us was sleeping. I lay there staring into the darkness. It's funny how quiet a house can become in the middle of the night. The refrigerator hums somewhere down the hall. The air conditioner kicks on. A floor creaks for no apparent reason. Little sounds you've never noticed during the day suddenly seem loud. And in all that quiet, your thoughts get louder. Mine did. I wasn't thinking about work. I wasn't thinking about tomorrow's schedule. I wasn't thinking about whether I'd remembered to lock the front door. I was thinking about a number. Just one. It wasn't a huge number. Not the kind that would make the evening news. It was simply a number that represented unfinished business. Debt. The kind you intend to pay off. The kind you tell yourself will be gone next year. Until next year quietly becomes 5 years. Maybe you've had a number like that. A credit card balance, a medical bill, a retirement account that doesn't seem to be growing fast enough, a mortgage you hoped would already be gone. Whatever it is, it follows you. It rides along while you're driving. It sits across the table while you're eating dinner. It quietly interrupts vacations. It waits patiently until the lights go out. Then it starts asking questions. Have I done enough? Did I wait too long? What if retirement doesn't look anything like I imagined? The older I get, the more I've realized those questions aren't really about money. They're about something much deeper. They're about security. They're about responsibility. They're about wanting to know that the people we love will be okay. For a long time, I thought I was the only one carrying those thoughts around. Then something happened. A man stopped me after church one Sunday. We'd known each other for years. He smiled, asked how things were going. We talked about our families, the weather, the sermon, normal Sunday morning conversation. Then, almost as an afterthought, he leaned in a little closer and said something I'll never forget. Jason, I thought I'd be further along by now. He wasn't asking for advice. He wasn't asking for money. He wasn't even looking for an answer. He was simply saying out loud what so many people feel, but almost never admit. I knew exactly what he meant, because I'd said those same words myself. Maybe not out loud, but certainly in my heart. Maybe you have too. I think one of the hardest parts of getting older isn't realizing how quickly time passes. It's realizing how different life turned out from the picture we painted in our 20s. Back then, everything seemed simple. Work hard, stay out of trouble, raise a family, pay off the house, save for retirement, grow old, enjoy life. No one tells you about the interruptions. Cars don't ask whether it's a convenient time to break down. Roofs don't leak according to your budget. Parents grow older. Children sometimes need help long after they've become adults. Medical bills arrive without warning. Inflation quietly raises the price of ordinary life until one day you push the same grocery cart through the same store you visited for years, and somehow the receipt is $80 higher than it used to be. Life doesn't usually fall apart because of one terrible decision. It changes because of 1,000 ordinary ones. A transmission, a furnace, a wedding. college tuition, helping someone you love. None of those decisions seem unreasonable. Many of them are beautiful. Some are simply acts of love. That's why I've stopped judging people by the numbers on a balance sheet. Every financial story has a human story behind it, and every human story deserves compassion before it receives advice. A few mornings after that sleepless night, I found myself sitting alone at our kitchen table before sunrise. The coffee was hot. The house was quiet. Outside, the sky was beginning to turn from black to deep blue. I wasn't reading. I wasn't checking email. I was simply watching the morning arrive. There's something about the first light of day that reminds me God enjoys fresh starts. Every sunrise quietly says the same thing. You get another chance. As I sat there, I reached for a yellow legal pad and wrote one sentence across the top of the page. Not a budget, not a list of debts, not a financial goal, just one sentence. What would financial peace actually look like? Not financial success, not wealth. Peace. Because the older I get, the more convinced I become that those aren't the same thing. I've met wealthy people who never seemed able to rest. I've met retired couples with modest incomes who laughed easily, slept well, and lived with remarkable contentment. One had more money, the other had more peace. If I had to choose only one, I know which one I'd rather have. Maybe that's why you're here. Not because you expect me to have all the answers. I certainly don't. You're here because, like me, you're looking for wisdom instead of hype, perspective instead of pressure, hope instead of fear. If that's true, I think we're going to get along just fine. So pour yourself another cup of coffee, pull your chair a little closer to the table. Let's have an honest conversation. Not about getting rich, about becoming wise, because I honestly believe it's not too late. A few days after I wrote that question on my legal pad, I opened a drawer in my office looking for a pen. Instead, I found an old checkbook. I hadn't seen it in years. The cover was worn. The pages had yellowed just a little around the edges. I flipped through it, and suddenly I wasn't standing in my office anymore. I was 28 again, a young husband, trying to build a career, trying to pay the bills, trying to convince myself I knew what I was doing. I smiled, then I laughed. Some of those old checkbook entries brought back memories I'd completely forgotten. A used washing machine, our first dining room table, a hospital bill after one of our daughters was born, a car repair that came at exactly the wrong time. Back then, every one of those expenses felt enormous. I remember thinking, once we get through this, life will finally settle down. It never did. Not because life was unfair, because life is always changing. One season ends, another begins. Children grow up, parents grow older, jobs change, the economy changes, our bodies change, the needs around us change. The truth is, there is no season when life stops asking something of us. That realization changed the way I think about money. For years, I believed financial peace was waiting somewhere in the future, just over the next hill, after the house was paid off, after retirement, after the debt disappeared, after one more promotion. But peace kept moving. Every time I reached one goal, another concern appeared on the horizon. It reminded me of hiking in the mountains. You climb for an hour, convinced the next ridge must be the top. Then you arrive, only to discover another ridge, and another, and another. Eventually you realize something. The joy isn't found at the summit. The joy is learning to enjoy the walk. I think money works the same way. If our peace depends on reaching one more financial milestone, we'll never quite arrive, because there will always be another milestone, a bigger emergency fund, a larger retirement account, a newer vehicle, a paid-off mortgage, more investments, more security. Enough quietly becomes a moving target, and we'll spend our lives chasing it. Jesus told a story about a wealthy farmer whose land produced such an abundant harvest that he decided to tear down his barns and build bigger ones. On the surface, it sounded like good financial planning, more storage, more efficiency, more security. But Jesus wasn't criticizing his planning. He was exposing his heart. The farmer believed bigger barns would finally give him peace, but peace was never hiding inside the barns. It's amazing how easily we make the same mistake. We tell ourselves, if I can just reach this number, if I can just get through this season, if I can just retire, then I'll finally relax. But peace doesn't arrive because a calculator says we've reached the right number. Peace begins when we stop asking money to do what only God can do. Money can buy comfort. It cannot remove fear. Money can create options. It cannot create purpose. Money can provide a house. It cannot create a home. Money can purchase a vacation. It cannot produce contentment. I've met people with very little who seem remarkably rich. And I've met wealthy people who looked exhausted. The difference wasn't the size of their accounts. It was the condition of their hearts. That may sound overly spiritual, but I don't think it is. I think it's deeply practical. Because if fear is driving our financial decisions, no spreadsheet can fix that. If comparison is driving our spending, no budget app can solve it. If guilt is keeping us from looking at our finances, no investment strategy will bring peace. Eventually, we have to stop managing dollars and begin shepherding our hearts. That's harder work, but it's also the work that lasts. One of the wisest men who ever lived wrote these words, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." I've read that verse dozens of times. For years, I thought it was talking only about relationships or temptation. Now, I think it includes money too, because our financial decisions almost always begin in places no one else can see. In our fears, our hopes, our disappointments, our dreams, our contentment, or our lack of it. The budget is important. The investment account matters. The retirement plan has value. But those are branches. The heart is the root. Healthy roots produce healthy fruit. That's why I believe financial peace doesn't begin with a calculator. It begins with an honest conversation. First with ourselves, then with the people we love, and ultimately, with God. Maybe that's where real stewardship begins. Not with numbers, but with surrender. Years ago, I heard someone say something that has stayed with me ever since. You can tell what a person values by looking at two things: their calendar and their checkbook. Today, we might say their banking app instead of their checkbook. The point is still the same. Our money has a remarkable way of telling the truth. Not the truth we wish were true, the truth that actually is. I remember sitting at that same kitchen table one Saturday morning with a cup of coffee and my laptop open. I wasn't preparing a budget. I was simply scrolling through the last month's transactions, one by one. Coffee shop, gas station, grocery store, home improvement store, insurance payment, utility bill, a dinner out, a subscription I'd forgotten I was paying for. Then another, and another. None of the individual purchases bothered me. What surprised me was the story they told together. Money leaves footprints. Every dollar goes somewhere. And if we're willing to follow those footprints honestly, they almost always lead us to our priorities. Sometimes that's encouraging. Sometimes it's uncomfortable. I realized I had been asking myself, where did all the money go? The better question was, where did I choose for it to go? That's a very different conversation. One produces frustration. The other produces responsibility. Responsibility isn't about blame. It's about realizing that today's choices shape tomorrow's possibilities. That's actually good news, because I can't change yesterday, but I can influence tomorrow, one decision at a time. That morning, I did something incredibly simple. I took out another yellow legal pad. Across the top, I wrote 3 words: keep, cut, grow, nothing fancy. Under keep, I listed the things that genuinely added value to our lives: giving, time with family, books that helped me grow, experiences with people I loved. Those weren't expenses. They were investments in the life we wanted to build. Under cut, I wrote the things that had quietly become habits instead of choices: subscriptions we rarely used, impulse purchases, little conveniences that seemed insignificant on their own but added up over time. I wasn't trying to punish myself. I was simply trying to become more intentional. Then I came to the third column: grow. This became my favorite because it wasn't about spending less, it was about becoming more. Grow our emergency fund, grow our generosity, grow our retirement savings, grow our margin, grow our ability to help someone in need without creating stress at home. Suddenly, money wasn't about restriction anymore. It was about purpose. I think that's one reason so many budgets fail. They're built around what we have to give up instead of what we're trying to build. Nobody gets excited about deprivation. People get excited about purpose. If you tell yourself, I can't spend that money, it feels like loss. But if you tell yourself, I'm choosing something better, everything changes. The decision is exactly the same. The heart behind it is completely different. That reminds me of something Paul wrote to Timothy. He encouraged wealthy believers not to put their hope in riches, which are so uncertain, but in God, who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. I've always loved that last phrase, for our enjoyment. God isn't against enjoyment. He's against misplaced hope. There's a world of difference. Enjoy the dinner with your family. Enjoy the vacation you planned wisely. Enjoy the hobby that refreshes your soul. Receive those things with gratitude. Just don't ask them to carry the weight of your identity. Only God can do that. When I finished that legal pad exercise, something unexpected happened. I didn't feel deprived. I felt lighter. But not because we'd suddenly found thousands of extra dollars. We hadn't. I felt lighter because uncertainty had begun to give way to clarity. And clarity has a way of quieting fear. Fear thrives in vagueness. Wisdom grows in the light. So let me give you one invitation this week. Don't start with a complicated spreadsheet. Don't download 5 budgeting apps. Don't promise yourself you'll change everything by Monday. Just make a cup of coffee. Sit somewhere quiet, take out a piece of paper, and write 3 words across the top. Keep, cut, grow. Then ask God for the courage to be honest. Not perfect, honest. You may be surprised by what those 3 simple words reveal. And you may discover, as I did, that financial peace doesn't begin when your numbers change. It begins when your heart becomes willing to look at them without fear, because that's where wisdom always begins, with honesty. And honesty, though sometimes uncomfortable, is one of God's greatest gifts. The older I get, the more I find myself thinking about things I rarely considered when I was 30. Not because I've become morbid, because time has a way of changing our perspective. When you're young, you spend a lot of time asking, what can I build? As the years pass, the question slowly changes. What will I leave behind? That's a very different conversation. One afternoon, I was helping a friend clean out his father's garage after his dad had passed away. The shelves were lined with neatly labeled boxes, old fishing gear, coffee cans filled with screws and nails, paintbrushes worn smooth from years of use, a tackle box that looked older than I was. There were tools hanging on the wall exactly where he'd left them. As we worked, my friend picked up an old hammer. The wooden handle was polished from decades of use. He turned it over in his hands and smiled. My dad built half the house with this. For a moment, neither of us said anything. It wasn't really about the hammer. It was about the man who had held it, the quiet faithfulness, the years of providing, the Saturdays spent fixing things no one else even noticed. I remember thinking that someday someone will probably stand in my garage, or my office, or my workshop. They'll sort through my things the same way. Some items they'll keep, some they'll donate, some they'll throw away. And then a question settled into my heart. What do I hope they'll remember? Not what do I hope they'll inherit? What do I hope they'll remember? I don't think anyone hopes their grandchildren will say, Grandpa had a really impressive investment portfolio. I hope mine say something different. I always felt safe when I was with him. He loved Grandma well. He kept his word. He prayed for us. He was generous. He never made us feel like we were a burden. He lived with peace. Those are the things that endure. Money matters. It matters because it affects our daily lives. It affects our marriages, our stress, our opportunities, our ability to help others. But money was never meant to become the measure of a life. Character is, faithfulness is, love is, generosity is. Years ago, Jesus told his followers, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal, but store up treasures in heaven." I've read those verses many times. When I was younger, I mostly thought about heaven. Today, I also think about legacy, because every act of generosity, every quiet sacrifice, every decision to choose contentment over comparison, every moment we teach our children and grandchildren what really matters, those are treasures that don't disappear. Those investments keep paying dividends long after we're gone. One of the greatest gifts we can give our family isn't a perfect financial inheritance. It's a healthy relationship with money. Imagine your children watching you, not hearing another lecture, watching you. They notice that you don't panic every time the market falls. They notice that you don't chase every new investment trend. They notice that you live below your means without complaining. They notice that you give quietly. They notice that you pray before making major financial decisions. They notice that peace seems to guide your choices more than fear does. Those observations become lessons. Lessons become habits. Habits become legacies. I've often wondered how much of my own thinking about money came from watching my parents. Not from what they told me, from what they modeled. Children have remarkable memories. They may forget our advice. They rarely forget our example. That's one reason I believe financial wisdom is never just about us. Every wise decision echoes into the next generation. Every act of stewardship teaches someone, sometimes without us even realizing it. If you're watching today and you're thinking, I've made too many mistakes, let me encourage you. Your legacy is not determined by the mistakes behind you. It's shaped by the decisions in front of you. Maybe your children watched you struggle, then let them watch you become wiser. Maybe they've seen your anxiety. Now let them see your peace. Maybe they've watched you avoid difficult conversations about money. Invite them into honest ones. It's never too late to become the example you wish you'd had. I've become convinced that one of the greatest inheritances we can leave isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in confidence. The confidence our family gains because they watch someone faithfully trust God through every season of life. That kind of inheritance doesn't show up in a will. It shows up in hearts. And unlike money, it can never be spent. That's the kind of wealth I've come to desire most. Not because it makes life easier, because it makes life meaningful. And in the end, meaningful lives leave the richest legacies. Before we finish today, there's one more thing I'd like to tell you. It isn't really about money, at least not on the surface. It's about grace. I think one of the reasons so many people avoid looking at their finances is because they're afraid of what they'll find. Not just numbers, regret. We all have it. Maybe you invested in something that didn't work out. Maybe you borrowed more than you should have. Maybe you spent years believing the next raise would solve everything. Maybe you simply didn't know what you know now. It's easy to look backward with today's wisdom. The trouble is, we didn't have today's wisdom back then. We were making the best decisions we could with the knowledge we had at the time. That doesn't excuse poor choices, but it should remind us to extend ourselves the same grace God extends to us. I've spent enough years around people to know that regret is one of the heaviest burdens we carry after 50. Not just financial regret, life regret, conversations we wish we'd had, time we wish we'd spent differently, opportunities we let pass, words we wish we could take back. Money simply becomes one more place where regret likes to settle. But regret is a poor architect. It can tell us where we've been wrong. It cannot build a better tomorrow. Wisdom can. That's one reason I love the way Scripture speaks about God's mercy. The Bible doesn't describe His mercies as occasional. It says they are new every morning. Every morning, I've always found that comforting, because every sunrise quietly reminds us that God is more interested in where we're going than where we've been. He doesn't erase consequences, but He often redeems them. I've seen people pay off enormous amounts of debt, one faithful payment at a time. I've watched couples who avoided money conversations for years learn to laugh together over a budget. I've seen generosity return to families who thought they had nothing left to give, not because their circumstances changed overnight, because their hearts did. That's the miracle I'm praying for. Not that all your financial problems disappear by next Tuesday. Life usually doesn't work that way. I'm praying that fear begins to loosen its grip, that clarity replaces confusion, that purpose replaces drift, that hope replaces regret, and that one quiet decision becomes the beginning of a completely different story. You know, when we began this conversation, I told you about lying awake at 2:17 in the morning, thinking about a number, thinking about unfinished business. I still wake up sometimes, probably always will. Life has a way of reminding us that we're not in control of everything, but something has changed. When I wake up now, I don't immediately think, what if? More often I find myself thinking, what is the next wise thing I can do? That's a much gentler question. It's also one we can actually answer. Maybe that's the secret not trying to solve the next 20 years. Simply asking, what does wisdom require of me today? Maybe today it means making one extra payment. Maybe it means calling your spouse into the conversation instead of carrying the burden alone. Maybe it means finally opening the retirement statement you've been afraid to read. Maybe it means canceling a subscription. Maybe it means giving thanks for what you already have. Maybe it means praying before making your next financial decision. Whatever it is, don't underestimate small beginnings. God rarely changes a life all at once. He changes a direction, and directions, given enough time, become destinations. 1 degree doesn't seem like much, but if an airplane leaves Seattle headed just 1 degree off course, it doesn't arrive a few feet from where it intended. It arrives hundreds of miles away. The opposite is also true. One small correction today, repeated faithfully, can completely change where your life ends up. That's why I believe so deeply in ordinary faithfulness. Not because it's exciting, because it works, slowly, quietly, almost invisibly, until one day you look back and realize your life has become something you never thought possible. Not perfect, but peaceful. Before we say goodbye, I'd like to ask you a favor. Not for me, for yourself. Sometime today, before the day gets busy, pour yourself a cup of coffee, find a quiet place, turn off your phone for 10 minutes, take out a sheet of paper, and answer this question. What would financial peace actually look like in my life? Not what should it look like. Not what someone on television says it should look like. Your life, your family, your season. Write honestly, pray honestly, dream honestly. Then ask God for the wisdom to take the next step. Not the next 100, just the next one. Because that's all He's ever asked any of us to do. One faithful step, then another, until almost without noticing, we've become the people we once hoped we could be. Thank you for spending part of your morning with me. I don't take that lightly. If this conversation encouraged you, I'd love to have you join me again next Saturday. We'll keep learning together. We'll keep growing together. We'll keep making one wise decision at a time. And if no one has told you this lately, let me be the one to say it. You are not behind. You are not disqualified. You are not defined by your worst financial decision. With God's help, your best days of stewardship may still be ahead of you. Until next time, may the Lord give you wisdom for every decision, contentment in every season, courage for every challenge, and peace that is greater than every number on every page. God bless you. I'll see you next time.